professor in the Department of Botany. Sir, you are online. Yes. Good morning, sir. Unmute.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So the participants we are having now, Professor S K Mehta. He is a senior faculty in the Department of Botany in Mizoram University. He has been head of the Department of Botany for 3 terms. He had been dean of the School of Life Sciences once. He is member of various committees, administrative committees and academic committees in our university. He is having a good exposure working outside India also. He worked for a university in China. Then he was very instrumental in implementation of CBCS system in Mizoram University. Our university successfully implemented CBCS in 2012. Is it correct, sir? 12? No?
Yes.
Yes. So in 2012 we implemented, and in 2015 we revised it. And many of the university could not even implement CBCS even now. So I'm not giving full credit to you, sir. Sorry for that, because the system works. But he was leading from the front, being coordinator of the CBCS committee of the university. So framing of all guidelines and making us ready for that, how to implement, a kind of training for us. And regular communication from his side we used to receive, and successfully we implemented. So credit goes to him for that. He is considered to be a good researcher also in our university system. If we see his profile, his impact factor, it is more than 56, JCR 2017. His Google Scholar citations are more than 2000. His H index is 19, I-10 index is 20, and on ResearchGate, his RG score is more than 18. The reads are more than 1775. Total citations are more than 1500. So he's considered a good researcher in the field of life sciences. And now today he's going to talk on ethics in research. So only a researcher can talk on the ethics of researcher, and he is one of them. So we requested him to be speaking on this topic. So, sir, these are a group of some 28 new faculty members from different universities. Coincidentally, we don't have anyone from Mizoram University, but 2 alumni of Mizoram University working in BHU are participants here. Beside them, we are having some 13-14 participants from Assam, different colleges. Few from Manipur, few from West Bengal, 3 from Uttar Pradesh from BHU, and few from southern part of India. So a good combination of student participants, teachers, and all are from different subject matters. So with this brief introduction, I would like to request you to start your presentation, sir.
Okay, thank you, Professor Bhartenduji. And I am also thankful to SRDC who has invited me to deliver this lecture. So initially, I was thinking to give a lecture that is related to botany because I am professor in subject botany, but later on I was informed to give some general topic which may be useful to faculty who belong to different disciplines. So I thought I am doing this research for last 27 years, so why not to speak that what is research and what are acceptable ethics, morals, which we should practice during our research activities, and later on when we are publishing our findings. So at all stages, there are certain that are not rules or law, but that are moral aspects we should consider. So today I will give a lecture about ethics in research. So in this lecture, I have divided in 2 parts. First maybe that actually what is research, why we are doing research, and how we are doing research. And in second part, I will discuss about that ethics. So I am going now share my PowerPoint and I am going to start. Thank you, Bhartenduji.
Thank you,
Please
sir.
share that. You can sit on my video. Now it is sharing.
Yeah, it is visible, sir. Yes.
Just a full screen we are doing.
Not yet full screen.
Yes, we are doing.
Okay, now it is full screen, sir. Yes.
Okay, so for a clear voice, now I am going to down my video and audio will be up. Okay. So again, good morning to all participants. As I mentioned that today lecture topic is ethics in research, and briefly first I will describe that actually what is research, and later on I will shift on certain points about ethics in research. So all of you are already in academy, and most of the ethical things you are known, but still I want to highlight some points. So let us move. So first thing that what is research? There are different definitions of research, different interpretations are there, but we can say in simple way that research is a scientific understanding of existing knowledge and deriving a new knowledge that to be applied for the betterment of mankind. And we also can say research as we are research means that we are researching a phenomena that in reality already exists and operates in nature or in the universe, but whose underlying principles, mechanisms, or other qualities have so far remained elusive to us. So it can be concluded as research is an attempt to transform unknown into known and demystify the mystery associated with a phenomena that may be either physical phenomena or some other kind. So research start with a certain defined process. So according to one philosopher, it is said that a research process include defining and redefining the problem, then formulating the hypothesis for suggested solutions, and after that it proceed by collecting, organizing, and evaluating data. Then on the basis of that data, making a deduction and reaching conclusion and further testing the conclusion whether they fit into formulating the hypothesis. So these are basic process through which research start and ends. So research is conducted. Why research is conducted? There are certain points that research is conducted to evaluate the validity of a hypothesis or an interpretive framework. Research is conducted to assemble a body of substantive knowledge and findings for share them in appropriate manner that may be in the form of publication, paper, thesis, report, etc. And just there are something on the screen. And research is also conducted to help to generate questions for further research or inquiries. So, although depending on discipline, research has its own objectives, but in general, we can say that objectives of research are to know about unknown. So one of the prime objective of research is to explore or to know or to explore about the unknown facts. And second objective, to describe the future. It is one of the core activities of research where a researcher observes the phenomena and record that phenomena. And next objective is to explore the phenomena. Another objective is to explore the behavior of particular phenomena by determining cause and effect relationship of phenomena. And next objective is to predict the future activities, and after that to influence the activities. So the last objective of research is controlling or influencing a particular phenomena. So there are certain characteristics of a good research. So it starts that originate with a question or problem. Then a good research requires a clear articulation of goal or aim. Then research follows a specific plan or procedure. And after that, often divides main problem into sub-problem, and a good research is guided by a specific problem or hypothesis. A good research accepts certain critical assumptions, and good research also require collection and interpretation of data. So these are some characteristics of a good research, that how it start, how it proceed, and how it ends. So good research is systematic in its nature. Research is based on some logical aspects. It is empirical, and a good research is always replicable. So what a researcher has find, that finding should be also replicable by others. So a researcher should have dedication and commitment, consistency and patience, good written communication, and a good researcher also has domain knowledge, good verbal communication, and creativity. So these are some important traits of a good researcher. Types of research when we are describing. So research type is mainly based on discipline that belong to social science, to science, to engineering and art. But overall, the research can be broadly classified as descriptive research. So that is not based on experimental data, but that is based on some observations from society, from environment, or from inverse. Then analytical research. So science subjects mainly, they have research type that are mainly or mostly analytical, based on certain analysis. That analysis may be by using instrument or by using statistical tools or some other tools. And applied research, that is based on utilizing the knowledge from fundamental research or analytical research or any other kind, and that is direct application of discovered idea for humankind, mainly for making a life of human more easy. Then is a fundamental research. So here applications are not included, but it is meant for finding the knowledge that is in our universe. And quantitative research, as name indicate, it is about research which emphasize on quantity and empirical research. So these are main categories of research. So mainly in our system, we are focusing on basic research, that is pure or fundamental. And although basic research is not immediately needed, but knowledge gained from that basic research can be applied in future. Then applied research and experimental research. So efficient and well-planned activities always see success. So what to do during a research? It is required first to efficiently plan a research activity, then formulate tentative research problem, then execute that problem meticulously and publish it for outside world, so others will also know that what is the importance of research and how it can be further used for welfare of human being, and follow research process to get optimized research outcomes. So in conclusion, a research should be planned very carefully, and it should be formulated in a planned manner. So a research approach, broadly, it may be either quantitative or qualitative. And under quantitative, it may be inferential, experimental, or simulation. So the inferential approach proposed purpose is to form a database from which to infer the characteristic or relationships of the population. Experimental approach that is characterized by much greater control over the research environment. And in this case, some variables are manipulated to observe their effect on others variable. Simulation approach that involve the construction of an artificial environment within which relevant information and data can be generated. This term simulation in the context of business and social sciences applications refer to the operation of numerical model that represent the structure of dynamic process. And the qualitative approach, this is to research is concerned with subjective assessment of attitudes, opinions, and behavior. So research in such a situation is a function of researchers' insight and impression. So these are main research approaches. And during all this process, it is very important to be aware of plagiarism issues. So researcher must be aware of plagiarism issues, copyright issues, procedures, and that resulting penalties. So plagiarism is to literally steal the work of another person, presenting it as original research without proper citations, come under professional misconduct. There are different agencies like Turnitin or Kund, PlagScan, etc., that verify the copied content in written document with its source. But actually, they are checking similarities, not actual plagiarism. Similarity, same concept can be written in two different forms by changing language. So any software that will not detect that kind of plagiarism, it will show that these two contents are not similar, but concept, same idea is written in two different languages. So it is a responsibility of a researcher that using these tools, they should avoid not only similarities, but also copying the original idea of some other researcher. So common feature of a good research, and that features actually are basis of ethics. So research purpose should be clearly defined. Procedure for the research should be detailed sufficiently, which should help the other to continue the work by referencing our work. Next, research work should be carefully planned. A report should be created by a researcher, state that what was the procedure adopted for completing the work, and which should also include error in their finding. Conclusions should be confident to those justified by data of research. Next, the entire research work should be either from foundation of further advancement in the domain to draw some concrete conclusions. And a good research should be beneficial for the society, or it has some commercial application, educational point of view. Good research is always systematic and logical. The report should be well written and it should be published through refereed journals. So how our research outcome is evaluated, there are certain criteria. And how many publications we have, publication counts. Many times publication count actually not reflect the impact of research. So in addition to that publication count or number of papers, next is citation. So citation is that how a research is cited by other researcher. So there are different agencies, they are calculating citations and that are published annually, not annually, this is continuous process. So Scopus is an agency, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and another is and H index that also indicate the impact of a research. Mentoring, so PhD student, MPhil student, PG student, what we are doing, guiding, that is also our a kind of evaluation that how many PhD we have produced. And award, so researcher quality is also assessed by certain awards. How many patents have been filed, published, or awarded? That is also a criteria of research evaluation. And whether a researcher has some international collaboration, it has a foreign partner, and it is how frequently visiting other national and international laboratories. All that are tools to evaluate research activities. So if you see the national R&D expenditure by the sector, so most of the investment is from private sector, and central government, what that expenditure is only 3.9%, although this data is old, that is 3.9% of GDP. So it is clear that at national level, there is more requirement of expenditure to enhance the research quality. And research scenario in India. So according to this few years back data, maybe some change also, that most of the contribution in science is from chemistry. And next is contribution of computer science. So you can see that other sciences are basic sciences are lagging behind. One is that citation per article that shows the impact of research. So average in India was 0.21, whereas if you compare from USA, so average citation per article is 0.56, almost 3 times these US scientists are doing research that is threefold impactful. So more citations that reflect more impactful research. Now we are coming for research ethics. So research ethics that start when we started to formulate a research. So first point is for that research formulation, from where ethics start itself, whether our research proposal is original, our research proposal is already executed by other researcher and it is going to repeat again the same research. So from formulation point, then start execution of the research by collecting data, by interpreting that data, and concluding some finding. Here also throughout this process, ethics operate. So how we are conducting research, if we are not considering sufficient number of replicates, that is also unethical. If we have taken 50 number of measurements, we have given treatment to some rat, and by some reason, we have taken observation for only 45 rats, and we are extrapolating our data to 50 rats, that is also unethical. So research start from formulation to execution, and when research is done, then is coming publication. During publication, there are certain ethical points we should consider, and now we are going to discuss here also. So first, that what is ethics? When most people think of ethics or moral, they think of rules for distinguishing between what is right and what is wrong. But this is not ethics. Ethics is not related to what is right and what is wrong. So the most common way of defining ethics is the norms for conduct that distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior. So what we are doing in our research formulation, conducting our research and interpreting our research output, that is in acceptable manner or is unacceptable manner. So ethics is for there. It is not whether our formulation is right or wrong. but how we are formulating that is acceptable to society or not, that is research ethics. So we know that moral development occurs throughout the life. So research ethics that also originate from our childhood. Most people learn ethical norms at home, at school, or in some other place. And people also acquire their sense of right and wrong during their childhood. We are trained by our parents from beginning that do this, not do this. So that is, we are inheriting from our childhood that ethics. But later on, due to some reason, maybe societal or some demand, we are deviating what we have learned during our childhood. So moral development occurs throughout life as human beings pass through different stages of growth as they mature. So ethics in all aspect of life, not only in research, originate from beginning, and that passes through different stages of life. Sometimes there is that what is morality. So there is argument that morality is nothing more than common sense. If we apply our common sense, then act is moral. This is always there is argument about this thinking. Sometimes like question that why are there so many ethical disputes and issues in our society? In our society, we have common sense, but still there are many disputes. So definitely this morality is not the common sense. One explanation we can say for this argument, this disagreement, is that all people recognize some common ethical norms, but interpret, apply, and balance them in different ways in light of their own values and life experience. So morality is more than common sense. Now, sometimes it is said that what is ethics and then what is law. So these two are different. Most society also have legal rules. That rules govern behavior, act, but ethical norms tend to be broader and more informal than laws. So ethics and laws are not the same. An action may be legal, but unethical, or we can say illegal. Action may be illegal, but it should be ethical. It may be ethical also. We can cite example of murder. Murder is illegal, everyone accept. But what about abortion? In some people, in some country, it is legal, but is it ethical or it is unethical? That depends on society. So laws and ethics, these two are different. Some country, they allows abortion. By their law, that is not illegal. But in the same country, some part of people, they think that it is not ethical. So laws and ethics, these two are different. So ethics focuses on discipline. So different disciplines, they have different guidelines, different standards. So many different disciplines, institutions, and professions have standards for behavior that suit their particular aim and goal. These standards also help members of discipline to coordinate their action or activities and to establish the public's trust of the discipline. So ethical norms also serve the goal of research and apply to people who conduct scientific research or other scholarly or creative activities. So there are several reasons why it is important to adhere to ethical norms in research, why ethics are required, or we can say that how guideline or ethics guideline protect researchers. First thing that these ethical norms promote the aim of research, such as knowledge, truth, and avoidance of the error. For example, prohibition against fabricating uh, means creating data, false data, or manipulating that data, falsifying or misrepresenting research data, promote the truth and minimize the error. So there are guidelines that prohibit such activities like data fabrication, falsification of data, and misinterpretation of that data. So these are under misconduct. If someone is adding some data point or even deleting some data point what was generated during the research, that is a kind of misconduct. If a research is conducted by 50 individuals and the result is extrapolated to thousands of the samples, that is totally a misconduct. Second thing, ethical standards promote the value that are essential to collaborative work. Mostly, nowadays, there is a multidisciplinary research. We are making collaboration with different national, international laboratories. And sometime there is network research program. Many institutes participate. So there is a kind of collaborative work. And there are different stakeholders. Different researchers are there and they contribute at their own capacity. They are assigned certain goal objectives. In that situation, always there are certain kind of dispute. So like who will be author of a paper when there are more than one or two authors. So, and likewise, there are many aspects. So there are ethical guidelines are required for that collaborative work. So we can take example, many ethical norms in research are guideline. There are guidelines for authorship, that who will be first author, who will be corresponding author, and there are guidelines about copyright, patenting policies. Researcher is conducting a research, but it is funded by certain agencies. So who will get patent? Either a research or funding agency. For this, there are certain guidelines that also come under that ethics. We should adhere to that guidelines. Data sharing policies and confidentiality rules in peer review. When we are reviewing paper assigned by some journal, so should be very confidential, and a reviewer should not disclose finding or experiment that was given in that paper unless that paper is published. So during a reviewing process, if we are disclosing data, we are discussing finding with other researcher, that is totally not acceptable. So these guidelines are designed to protect intellectual property interest while encouraging collaboration. So for successful collaboration, there is always a requirement of guidelines, and that guideline mostly they have ethical aspects. Fourth, that ethical norms in research also help to build public support for research. When we are conducting research in science subject mainly, and in some social science also, a lot of fund or financial support is required. And if our research is not ethical, we are not following guidelines of different agencies, then certainly funding agency will not easily ready to support our research. So ethical norms help us to get financial support for conducting research. So people are more likely to fund a research project if they can trust the quality and integrity of the research. And quality and integrity of the research that originate when research is done in a certain manner, or we can say in ethical manner. Morality is included there in research. Research is original, is finding are scientific, like that. Third point here, important point is accountability. So many of the ethical norms help to ensure that a researcher can be held accountable to public. For instance, policies on research misconduct, conflicts of interest, the human subject protections, and animal care and use are necessary in order to make sure that researchers who are funded by public money can be held accountable to public. So when human beings are involved in the research, then there are certain guidelines whether consent of that subject has been obtained or not. So there are well-defined guidelines about these topics, and researcher is accountable whether these guidelines are followed or not. So why most of the people, we are doing ethical research, but knowingly or unknowingly sometimes few researchers, very few, they do some unacceptable behavior in their research. So we can say that unacceptable or unethical behavior as misconduct. So why some people, they are very few, why they are doing misconduct in their research? What is the reason behind that? So nowadays, one reason may be pressure to publish paper from institutions, from governing bodies. There are certain criteria that you publish compulsorily this number of paper, otherwise you will not get promotion, you will not get increment, or even you will not get any credit in your institution. But it's not necessary that all research will result into a paper publication. So there is a certain pressure, and some researcher they do misconduct. Like for publishing paper, they some researcher getting publication, they are sending their manuscript to some journals which are not reputed. They publish within week or within overnight and charging some money. So, but somehow researcher is forced to do that things. If there is no pressure of a requirement of number of publication, then why researcher will do misconduct? Second is that there is severe competition for funds. When we are applying some fund, national or international project, always number of publication during last 5 years, during 10 years is appended. So everyone want to have that number of publication, research output to get fund. So that is also a kind of pressure. And moreover, we are well known about NIRF and other institutional ranking that also require a number of publication. But always a number of publications sometimes is not linked with impact of that research. Even a single paper may have more impact than hundreds of paper that are published in some low quality journals. So number here always making pressure to do some kind of misconduct, means giving authorship to a researcher who was not involved in that research. So just to making number of publications for both researchers. And pressure from research sponsor, it is very true. If someone is giving fund, they also expect a result in the form of some product, in the form of some research paper. But sometimes it creates pressure on researcher, scientists to do some kind of misconduct. And lack of knowledge on research ethics, that is also very important. Many researchers are not well known about research ethics. In our system, many times we encounter that there is one supervisor and 2-3 students are there. When paper is communicated, supervisor is at first place. So why that supervisor not want to be first place, but he's put his name thinking that he is just overall supervisor of research, so his place is first. But if he reads the research ethics guidelines, that when work is collaborative, then what are guidelines? What are guidelines for authorship? Who will be first author? Who will be corresponding author? And definitely everyone want to go ahead. So if more number of paper, more recognition and more citations. So these are some factors that are very essential also. It is very essential and responsibility to publish paper. But if there is pressure, then it creates misconduct. So research ethics are moral principles that guide researchers to conduct and report research without intention to harm the participant of the study or member of the society as a whole, or whether knowingly or unknowingly. So these moral principles, they regulate these research activities, starting from formulation of research to conducting research and concluding that research. So practicing ethical guidelines while conducting and reporting research is essential to establish the validity of our research. So there are certain policies and code of research ethics, and these different agencies, they have their own code and policies. So many different professional associations, government agencies, and universities have adopted specific code, rules, and policies relating to research ethics. Here are some listing. Ethics rule for funded project. So NIH, NSF, Food and Drug Administration, the Environmental Protection Agency, they have their own ethics or guidelines or rules. Uniform requirement for manuscript submitted to biomedical journals. So there is one agency, that International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. They have formulated some certain guidelines. American Chemical Society, they have Chemists Code of Conduct. Likewise, American Society for Clinical Laboratory Science, they have their own code of ethics. And these code of ethics for different institutions, they are subject or discipline specific or area specific. So American Psychological Association, they have a guideline called Ethical Principles of Psychologists. These things can be downloaded from a website, their details. American Anthropological Association, they have guideline called Statements on Ethics and Professional Responsibility. World Medical Association, so there is a Nuremberg Code and Declaration of Helsinki. These are few examples where well-defined code and policies are available from these agencies, and these codes are applicable to research related in that area. So maybe most of the point all of you are aware that what are in general ethical principles. One same thing is that honesty. So it is truly said that no legacy is so rich as honesty. So strive for honesty in all scientific communication. Honestly report your data, result, methods and procedures, and publication status. We should it is our ethical responsibility to adhere these guidelines. We should not hide our data which are not fitting to our hypothesis. And also honestly, we should report our result, not cutting some portion of the result which we cannot explain. Do not fabricate, falsify or misrepresent data, and we should not deceive to colleague, research sponsor or public. So overall, honesty is the very important aspect of scientific research. Objectivity. So strive to avoid biasness in experimental design. So many times we want that our result should be like this. And due to this assumption, we design our experiment. And that is not ethical thing. That first we think our result and we conduct a research in such a way that showing that this is true. So we are biased. That should be avoided. We should not be biased in data analysis, data interpretation, in peer review. Also, when we are doing review of certain journals, we should not bias whether it is author is from Africa, it is from China, or it is from US, or that author belong to which laboratory. Personal decisions we should not make. Grant writing, expert testimony, and other aspect of research where objectivity is expected are required. So we should think about objective of the research, not other aspect. When we are writing grant and we are just highlighting more and more that research will give this output, society will be get more benefit, but truly it may not happen or it may happen. Okay, so at the beginning we should not think much that anyhow we have to get grant. And integrity is also very important. Keep your promises and agreements when you are doing collaborative work, or when we are conducting some research project, and we have promised that at the end of result this may be outcome. So we should maintain our integrity, act with sincerity, strive for consistency of throughout, and action. Carefulness in research, this one is also very important aspect, uh, that we should be careful in our research. Avoid careless error and negligence when we are doing observation. So we should think that we should minimize the error. Carefully and critically examine your own work and the work of your peers. Keep good record of research activities. Uh, like we have conducted research, we have published the paper, and if some researcher ask that, can you send me your data? Then sometimes we said that it is lost, computer damage, crushed, like that. So that is not ethical. Openness. This is a very important aspect of research. So always share data, result, ideas, tools, resources for future investigation. It is very unethical that some research has been done and yielded good result in the form of some object or idea, and a researcher is hiding, not sharing to other that they will also get the same object. This one is not wanted in research. Researcher or research must be open for constructive criticism. Any model can be still modified or improved. So if we will not share our finding, we will not know the shortcomings of our research. And as it is truly said, that always there is a modification or improvement in any model. Machine is created, further there is modification, improvement of the same machine for greater efficiency. So we should be open in our research. And also research should be transparent. Disclose methods, material, what were used, assumptions, analysis, and other information needed to evaluate your research. When we are communicating paper, so honestly, we should mention that we have used this material from this manufacturer. Many times for getting publication. Some researchers, they use indigenous chemicals, materials, and in paper they mention it is procured from some renowned companies. That is not good. So every aspect should be transparent. How conclusions were reached, that should be made available. That how we analyze our result and how we concluded. So conclusion always is based on certain data. How result were obtained, we should also disclose. How research was conducted, in which environment research was conducted, it should be also known to others. So overall, research from beginning to end, it should be transparent. And accountability. So take responsibility for your part in research. Mostly we are doing research in collaboration. So one supervisor, many students from same lab or other lab. So always accountability should be assigned to each and every stakeholder of that particular research, and everyone should be accountable for the part of research what he has conducted and what conclusion he has made, he or she has made. He or she should be accountable. If anytime it is asked that what is justification of that result, then that person should be accountable for that justification. So accountability should be assigned during collaborative work or even during now I cannot say that work in research is nowadays is not collaborative. Always there is collaboration. And everyone, all we know that we should respect intellectual property right. So generally it start from when we are formulating our research, we are selecting ideas which actually originated or which was published long back. So we should respect intellectual property right, honor patents, copyrights, and other form of intellectual property. Do not use unpublished data, methods, or results without permission. And give full credit where credit is due. When we are conducting a research and some laboratory or facility, they have help in analyzing some data, we should always acknowledge that laboratory. Is not required that if some laboratory has done analysis, so we should give authorship. But they certainly deserve for credit in the form of acknowledgement. Give proper acknowledgement or credit for all contributions to research. Now, in addition to some that ethical points, there are certain other uh, things or points we should apply in our research. One is confidentiality. So protect confidential communication such as paper or grants submitted for publication, personal records, trade or military secrets and patent records. Responsible publication. Publish in order to advance research and scholarship, not to advance just your own career. So if you are publishing for your own, it is not responsible publication. Publication aim is that others will get some benefit from your research. Definitely, a researcher will also be benefited. Avoid wasteful and duplicative publication. This is also very important that sometime in certain pressure, researcher publish their findings in part. Some part is published in one article, and last part of the result is published in the another journal. But overall, both are telling the same story. So that is very unethical. We should avoid this duplicative publication, same article, either changing title of paper in two or more journals. And next is a responsible mentoring. So help to educate, mentor, and advise student. It is our responsibility to promote their welfare and allow them to make their own decision. Always supervisor impose, not always, most of the time, supervisor impose their own idea. Student want to do this, but supervisor asks, no, you do this. It may happen, but there should be some proper discussion. And when both are agree that this direction of research will give result, then it works. So we should do mentoring, but that should be responsible, not like just supervising. Sorry. Non-discrimination. Avoid discrimination against colleagues or students on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, or other factors that are not related to their scientific competence and integrity. Then is competence. Maintain and improve your own professional competence and expertise through lifelong education and learning. Take steps to promote competence in science as a whole. So always we should learn new techniques, new development, and what are latest information in our domain. Animal care. So in medical science and life sciences, we are using animal subject for our research. So we should give proper care to that animals. So proper respect and care for animals when using them in research. Do not conduct unnecessary or poorly designed animal experiment. And there are certain guidelines that how many animals should be included in very essential experiment. We should adhere that guideline. And human subject protection. In medical science, clinical research, humans are involved. So when conducting research on human subject, minimize harms and risk and maximize benefit. Respect human dignity. Do not disclose their privacy and autonomy. Take special precautions with valuable populations and strive to distribute the benefit and burdens of research fairly. There are certain activities that are not defined as misconduct, but are considered as unethical. Publishing the same paper in two different journals without telling the editors. So, publishing paper is not misconduct, but if it is published in the two journals and not informing any editor, this is unethical. You have a right to publish paper in any journal, so this is not misconduct. But what is unethical? that at the same time publishing same paper in two different journals. So submitting the same paper to different journals without telling the editors. Not informing a collaborator of your intent to file a patent in order to make sure that you are the sole inventor. You have done research in a collaboration, so you can file a patent. This is not misconduct, but what is unethical that you have not informed your collaborator. So that is unethical. Always when there is collaborative research, there should be a agreement between all stakeholders, and after that patent has to be filed, including a colleague as an author on a paper in return for a favor, even though colleague did not make serious contribution to the paper. This is very common. So I not tell much, but we should not practice this. If a colleague has contributed either in the form of paper writing, editing, or generating data, definitely we should give authorship. But only that he is my colleague and just giving authorship, it is very unethical. Discussing with your colleague confidential data from a paper that you are reviewing for a journal. Trimming outliers from a data set without discussing your reason in paper. So it is also in science subject, we get data for 100 points, but initial 10 points are not fitting well. We are just ignoring them. That is also not should be, that should not be practiced. Using an inappropriate statistical technique in order to enhance the significance of our research. This is also unethical practice, that this statistics is not showing that our result is significant. We are using another without knowing that which one is appropriate. Okay, so what data required, we should apply statistics and write statistics, whether our result is coming significant or not. Sometimes we are getting much error. So because one data point is very high and two are very similar. So that should not be done. Actually, that experiment has to be repeated. More replicate has to be taken, not by deleting a data point which disturb our statistical analysis. Bypassing the peer review process and announcing your result through a press conference without giving peers adequate information to review your work. So when research has been conducted, so definitely it should go to some agency like a journal, and they will send to some expert, they will evaluate your work, then your work is validated. Before that, if you are announcing your data that I have discovered this big thing, I have discovered this in press conference, in newspaper and others, that is not ethical. First, let it know your peers that what is their opinion about your research. Then you can go to public. Conducting a review of literature that fails to acknowledge the contribution of other people in the field or relevant prior work. Stretching the truth on a grant application in order to convince reviewers that your project will make a significant contribution to the field. Actually, in that, for example, in that particular geographical region, there may be no water scarcity, but one funding agency has card proposal uh, to fight with water scarcity, and then what researchers said that now it create that in this region there is no water. That things are not required. No need to stressing the truth. Giving the same research project to two students in order to see that who can do it the fastest. That is also not ethical. Overworking, neglecting, or exploiting graduate or postgraduate student. So supervisor or mentor give a lot of work to a student and he is overloaded. So that should be avoided. Failing to keep good research record is also unethical. Failing to maintain research data for a reasonable period of time. We cannot say that now 10 years has passed and now we have no data of that finding. No, we should maintain. Making derogatory comment and personal attack in your review of author's submission. When we are getting paper for reviewing, we should not make some personal attack that authors are not known about this. This is not a way to review paper. Promising a student a better grade for some kind of favor, that is also very unethical. Not reporting an adverse event in human research experiment. If humans are involved and there was some unwanted effect, and researchers should not hide that one. Wasting animal in research is also unethical. Exposing student and staff to biological risk in violation of your institution's biosafety rules. That should also be practiced. Rejecting a manuscript for publication without even reading it. That is also very serious, and sometimes we also face that we submitted our paper today morning and by evening paper is rejected. So sometime it happens, sometime journal do very quick processing, editor take decision quickly. So we cannot say all time that is true, but also it is true that some reviewer, they write comment without reading manuscript. Stealing supplies, book or data, making unauthorized copies of data, papers or computer programs. These are unethical. Deliberately overestimating the clinical significance of a new drug in order to obtain economic benefit. We experienced during Corona time, many companies, this CARA is very effective against coronavirus, like that things. Okay, so that should not be done. Outcome not supported by data. Now, publication ethics are certain rules of conduct generally agreed upon when publishing result of scientific research. Okay, so all these things, publication ethics, most of us are known. So criteria for authorship, quickly I can go, that substantial contribution to the conception or design of the work, or the acquisition, analysis or interpretation of data for the work. So you can give authorship to that person, or who has drafted the work or revisiting it carefully for important intellectual content. That also can be given authorship, and who finally approves the version to be published. That may be supervisor or some other senior faculty in your department, institution, and who is expert. So he has not done any experiment. He has not done editing, data analysis, but finally he said with a certain comment that this is good paper, you can communicate. So he also need authorship. When there are multiple authors, then who will be corresponding author? Corresponding author should clearly indicate the identity of all authors and in which order authors should be there. Then there is guarantors. Senior or first author is the one who has contributed most to the work. So generally, in our university system, student work for all experimental, all these things in guidance of supervisor. So we are giving first authorship to our student, then another student who has done partial work, and next is last author is supervisor who is corresponding author. The first author who is student also should not indicate as corresponding author. Sometimes student just write as a corresponding author, and later on many papers are coming to review from very prestigious journals. So that are not good. The last author is usually the head of the lab or research group. So when publishing paper, avoid data fabrication and falsification, avoid plagiarism, avoid multiple submissions, and redundant publication or salami publication. That means that publishing many very similar manuscripts based on the same experiment. That is unethical. Improper author contribution to or attribution. So who has not worked actually, or who is a relative, just putting his or her name as author, that is very unethical. So with that, I try to highlight that how research proceeds and what are certain ethical points we should practice in our research. With that, I am ending my research. Thank you for being with me.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your presentation. Dear participants, if you are having any question, please put up in the chat box. So far, no questions, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, only thank yous are coming, sir.
Okay.
So thank you, sir.
Because I not put any question, anything, so that topics are very general, just
Okay.
to remind, things are already there. My responsibility was to remind again.
Okay,
So
okay.
there may
To
be no
revise.
doubt. Yes.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for sparing your time, and on behalf of all the participants and on behalf of HRDC, I would like to say you thanks for giving your time. You had some problem in internet, then you traveled to HRDC office and then making presentation from there. So you have taken all the pain for this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
the support you extended to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So dear participants, this was the second session. Now we will take 1.5 hour, some 45 minutes break. And we'll reassemble at 1:30 for the third session. And there is a small, very, very small change in the schedule. The schedule which was, the session which was scheduled at 4th number, Dr. Hiranmoy Roy, he requested us to change it and schedule it at early because he's having some meeting at 3. So now he'll be taking third session. And the person who was scheduled for third session will be taking fourth. So just interchange of third and fourth session. The rest all is same. So please join at 1:30 and we'll start with Dr. Hiranmoy. Thank you and take a break now.